Welcome to Good Faith Stories from Good Faith Media. I'm Starlette Thomas, your host for our 5th episode. In each episode of Good Faith Stories, we bring you several stories tied to a theme. Unique and true stories as told by the people who live them. Each story is short, just a few minutes long, and accompanied by music. You might laugh, cry, get angry, remember. But we hope you'll think a lot and feel even more about what it means to be human. Our storytellers are people of faith. Good faith, we'd say. But on Good Faith Stories, you won't hear testimonies or sermons. No, you're going to hear stories. Real people telling you, this happened to me. In this episode, we're going to share some stories about second comings. You know, when a deceased loved one comes back, let's say, or you think they come back, or you're not sure if they've come back, but it feels like they have. And so what does it matter? As Thornton Wilder wrote in his novel, The Bridge of San Luis Rey, there is a land of the living and a land of the dead, and the bridge is love. Our first story in this episode comes from Mitch Randall. He told a story, Okima's Hands, in our second episode on gifts. Now he's back, and he tells, Dear Clan.
My parents recently relocated to Grand Lake in northeastern Oklahoma. After their retirements, they decided city life was no longer for them, so they headed to country living, where the hills rolled into the Ozarks, the trees swayed in the Oklahoma wind, and scissor-tail flycatchers soared through the air. Not long after my parents' relocation, my wife and I decided to visit. We wanted to see their new house and explore the new environment they now call home. The house was pristine, the only way my mother would have it, mind you. Decorated in country chic, my mother's style infuses our family history with a traditional flair. Each room, there are old photos of family members reaching back to the early 1900s. Black and white photos hung on the walls and rested safely on the shelves, cementing the legacies of the Randalls, Sheffields, Slavins, Butenauts, McIntosh, and Childers. Each photo told the story of humble beginnings, from the struggles through the Great Depression to life after the Trail of Tears. Children washing in tin buckets and sitting outside rundown houses told the story of my mom's family. They were the sons and daughters of the Dust Bowl and extreme poverty. As adults, they wore blue collars and grease under their nails. The resolve and grit were passed down through the generations, with my brother and me being the recipients of their determination. Walking further down the hall, another set of photos came into focus. My father's family. Stopping in front of one, my indigenous grandmother stared back at me. Okima Randall, a Muskogee Creek, donned the regalia of a fancy dancer. Plumes of feathers covered her back, while tiny bells enshrined her ankles. Wearing deerskin moccasins and a headdress, the beadwork covering the leather sparkled outside the frame. She was so beautiful, with her long black hair lying ever so gently against her dark brown skin. Taking another step, I stopped, frozen, looking at the man I had never met, but whose name I bear, Mitchell Butenaut, the father of my grandmother. He stood tall, wearing a headdress and leather gloves, covered with beads, feathers, and tassels, and with a wry grin, his humorous self looked steely into the camera and into my heart. Above the photo was mounted his old 410 single-barreled shotgun. Gently taking it off the wall, I felt the smooth touch of the wooden stock and the cool hint of the barrel. My grandfather used this gun to hunt squirrels, providing just enough meat for a nice stew for the family. As I held the shotgun, I closed my eyes, speaking a silent prayer to my ancestors, thanking them for my heritage and welcoming their presence into my life. I am a son of warriors, dancers, survivors, hunters, athletes, educators, activists, and clerics. I am a son of the Deer Clan. Indigenous wisdom teaches that your ancestors are always with you, walking the journey of life each step of the way. Placing the shotgun back on the mantel, I quietly offered, "Grandfather, I wish I had met you, but I hope I carry your name well." After my stroll down memory lane, we decided to go out for dinner. My wife and parents piled into the car, heading to a local restaurant located near the lake. As we wound our way through their new neighborhood, we turned a corner to one of the most majestic sights I had ever seen. There's nothing more beautiful than a fall afternoon in northeastern Oklahoma. The lake glistened from the orange, yellow, and red leaves beaming down upon it. The cool breeze rustled the trees, sending some of the colorful leaves wafting down to the earth. The sun was setting just behind the rolling hills, another day in the Sooner State being put to bed. The scene was so beautiful, I stopped the car. But the reason for my insistence was not because of the lake, the leaves, or even the sunset. No, something else stood tall, frozen within the landscape of autumn beauty. A large 6-point buck cast his gaze upon the car, examining its passengers as though he recognized us. He did not look away, but posed just long enough for me to pull out my camera and get a photo. What must have been 5 minutes seemed like 30 to us. The buck never looked away, his steely eyes locked with ours, connecting through the generations, the struggles, and the beauty of being Muskogee. One thought came rushing to my mind. Akawaki, Deer Clan. Beneath my breath, with tears welling in my eyes, I quietly uttered, "Hello, grandfather." Meadow.
That was Mitch Randall, CEO of Good Faith Media. His last word, "mdo," means thank you in Muskogee. Our next story comes from Jessie Wensman, who lives in Middle Tennessee. Her story, Butterflies.
I grew up on a quiet street in Tennessee, where my childhood was filled with bike rides, sidewalk chalk, and the kind of friendships that feel like forever. My best friends were Maya and Jenny. We were inseparable. We called ourselves the Three Amigas. We shared sleepovers, secrets, and the kind of laughter that only kids can truly understand. But the summer between 4th and 5th grade changed everything. Jenny went hiking in the woods with another friend and her friend's dad. It was supposed to be a fun adventure, but during the hike, the dad tugged on a vine to see if it was strong enough to swing on. That simple action loosened a large limb high up in a tree, and it fell and struck Jenny on the head. She was rushed to the hospital, but the injury was devastating. There was no chance of recovery, and Jenny's parents had to make the impossible decision to take her off life support. I was at horse camp completely unaware during all of this, but during our afternoon exercises as I was riding around the ring, a butterfly landed on my leg. I didn't think much of the butterfly at first, but it stayed with me for a full lap. Curious, I picked up speed and started trotting. Still, it didn't move. It stayed with me minute after minute after minute. That summer, on that horrible day, Maya too was unaware of what was happening. But she later told me a story about a butterfly that landed on her and stayed with her for minute after minute after minute. At 9 years old, I didn't fully grasp how profound these butterflies were, but as I grew older, butterflies kept showing up, and I started to pay attention. For years after Jenny's passing, Maya and I would get butterfly visits near the anniversary of her death. It became a quiet tradition, an unspoken comfort. One day, when I was in 8th grade, I was doing a high ropes course. I was terrified, frozen up high and unsure how to move forward. But I finally made it down, and when I did, someone told me, "You had a butterfly on your helmet the whole time." I nearly cried. I knew it was Jenny, checking in, reminding me I wasn't alone. Butterflies have become more than just insects to me. They're messengers, spirits, signs of love. They bring me comfort and connection, and a reminder that love doesn't end. It just changes form.
That was Jessie Wensman, an oncology nurse at Vanderbilt University Medical Center in Nashville. She loves hiking and the outdoors, loves that stem from the experience described in this story. She also has a tattoo of a butterfly. I'm Starlette Thomas. We'll be right back with more Good Faith Stories.
I'm Mitch Randall, CEO of Good Faith Media. We're a nonprofit dedicated to inclusion for all, freedom for all, and justice for all. And we invite you to support us in this work by becoming a Good Faith Advocate. Everyone who donates $50 or more per year becomes a Good Faith Advocate. You'll get our free quarterly magazine, discounts at our bookstore, access to other exclusive content, and much more. You'll also be supporting media content and journalism that makes a difference. Consider becoming a Good Faith Advocate today at goodfaithmedia.org.
Welcome back to Good Faith Stories from Good Faith Media. I'm Starlette Thomas, your host for this episode. Today we're hearing stories of second comings. This next story comes from Kevin Heifner in Little Rock, Arkansas. It's about an unexpected visitor on a cruise ship. Kevin tells Little Bird.
Say hello to my little friend. She found her way inside the cruise ship dining room where I started drinking coffee at 4 a.m. Clearly not her natural habitat. just sitting, pondering, ruminating. Vacations are good for that sort of thing. I was texting my brother Todd, told him I was going to imagine that this little bird inside the cruise ship was our brother Brad joining me briefly on vacation. It was good to see him for a few minutes. He died several months ago. Gently cupped this little bird in both my hands because I didn't know how she would get outside. And now she's flying free outside. So I'll see you later, little friend. That was my story. A small vignette I wrote, and I posted it on Facebook. My friend Mitch is recording it, and I asked him, what's the point of the story? And he said, there doesn't have to be a point. You just tell the story. It's just a thing that happened, something that fell in my lap, which I thought was pretty cool, but still not much of a story. And I was looking for an ending. There wasn't one until there was, at least for me. For 20 years, every fall, a group of my family and a bunch of loser friends gathers on the banks of Greer's Ferry Lake in Arkansas. We call it a retreat. There's no program, point, or purpose. We sit and eat and laugh and visit and argue and love, and we listen to some music. But there's no point. We do the things we rarely do in society today, but that we did routinely when I was a young boy. So my brother Brad died on May 3rd, 2025. A beautiful soul who came to that same gathering for 20 years, a kind person who made the world better. Two mornings ago, I walked outside to go to the gas station for a cup of coffee, and I was thinking about how to end my story, even though Mitch told me it didn't have to have a point. And then in my front yard, I saw not a bird, but a deer. And I looked at that deer, and that deer looked at me for about 5 seconds. And I knew that my brother Brad was with us again, with his family and his friends, the people he loved and people that loved him. And that was at the lake, just like that bird. And the lesson, at least for me, was to notice life and appreciate it. It's short and it's fleeting. And that's the first time I cried since my brother died. And I think the lesson for me is just to notice.
That was Kevin Heifner, a kidney doctor in Little Rock and a longtime board member of Good Faith Media. Kevin also surfaces in the Good Faith Media Narrative podcast, A Second Language, set in Little Rock. You can find it at goodfaithmedia.org. Our final story comes from the producer of this podcast and the senior media producer at Good Faith Media, Cliff Vaughn. He tells the Chimney Sweep.
European folklore holds that chimney sweeps bring good fortune. My father was drafted into the U.S. Army in 1958. His assignment, occupation forces in post-war Germany, specifically Schweinfurt in Bavaria. He and my mother had married in 1957, and she joined him for his overseas deployment. They considered the roughly year and a half they spent in the village of Niedervern a gift. They made lifelong friends in the service, and their first of 4 children, my older brother, was born in the Army hospital in nearby Würzburg. My parents chronicled their adventures in Germany with an Argus camera. They developed roughly 300 images as slides, and viewing them as a family was a yearly ritual. Watching Germany slides, a darkened room, a portable screen, the clickety-clack projector, became a portal to another world. Vivid colors, European landscapes, youthful parents, enchanted tales. The image on one slide always struck me as particularly magical. A chimney sweep. Here's how my mother described the image in 2007 when I interviewed her for a family documentary about the slides. I thought he was so unique. He came to clean the chimney, but he looked just like the chimney sweep on Mary Poppins. He was dressed in black from head to toe, he had on a stovepipe hat, and he had on a big wide belt with brushes, all sizes of brushes hanging. And his hands were dirty and his cuticles because of his work. And I asked him if I could make his picture. I got my camera and he was pleased to pose for me in the back garden. So we have among our slides a slide of the chimney sweep. When our mother died in 2023 at the age of 84, we memorialized her in part by remembering her Bavarian adventures. She was adept at seeing the magic of ordinary days. She lived such days her whole life, including a day in Niedervern when she noticed and photographed a chimney sweep. Our mother was happy. In 2025, part of our family made a pilgrimage, if you will, to Niedervern. 6 of us were finally able to travel to Germany and visit the village that was home to our parents, that served as the backdrop for a lifetime's recurring slideshow that was marked by the magical charm of a chimney sweep and the happiness of which our mother spoke. Fliegersiedlung 37. That was the address of the home where my parents lived. They rented the upstairs room from an elderly couple called the Roasts. Fliegersiedlung 37 stood within a couple kilometers of the Kahn barracks, where our father spent daytime hours. The Niedervern City Hall helped us, in advance of the trip, know that Fliegersiedlung 37 no longer existed on a map. The new name of the street and house number, Friedrich-Ebert-Straße 11. On the day of our visit, our group made many necessary but seemingly inconsequential decisions. Do we go see the old Kahn barracks first? Do we visit downtown Schweinfurt now or later? Shall we just drive around the countryside a while and soak in the scenery? We eventually settled on first trying to find Friedrich-Ebert-Straße 11. Niedervern, the village, was hillier than in my mind's eye. We quickly began to imagine our mother walking those hills as her pregnancy developed. She always said she enjoyed walking, and walking those streets from Niedervern to Obervern, a neighboring village where more friends and army wives lived, was good for her health. The doctor later said it probably helped her when it came time to give birth to her firstborn, who tipped the scales at 12 pounds, 4 ounces. Yes, that's correct. We parked the rental car on the narrow street and walked in the sun toward number 11. It was a trim, yellow, 2-story house, but not exactly like the structure in so many of the slides. We figured the house itself had been replaced, much like the street name. But no matter, we were there. My sisters and I posed for a few pictures on the street. One of my sisters donned a purple sweater that our mother wore in several of the Germany slides. I had brought along our father's dog tag. After a few moments of reminiscing, a gray SUV pulled up in front of number 11. A middle-aged man emerged. He was bald, wearing glasses, shorts, and a t-shirt, but also carrying a briefcase. He headed for the house. I had no clue who he was. I approached him and, in elementary German, offered a bit about who we were. We were Americans. Our parents lived at this address in 1959 and 60. We had come to see it. Did he know how old this particular house was? I struggled to keep up as he responded in German. He said he didn't know the age of the home, but perhaps others in the village did. He didn't live there. He was just there for an appointment. And then the man, in black shorts and black shirt and black shoes, inexplicably switched from German to English and said, such that everyone could understand, "I'm just the chimney sweep." He smiled and then proceeded to the front door of the home. He knocked and then vanished inside a moment later. We walked over to his vehicle and noted his business decal on a back window, a roofline with chimney, his website, his name, and his title, Kaminkehrermeister, which means Master Chimney Sweep. I don't know how often the chimney sweep visits Friedrich-Ebert-Strasse 11, but I know how often we have, once in our lives, for a roughly 15-minute window on Tuesday, June 3rd, 2025. Our mother saw the magic of ordinary days, days that sometimes bring chimney sweeps and good fortune. She was happy in Niedervern, and so were we. For we too saw a chimney sweep, and his first name, as we noted on his vehicle, Felix, Latin for happy.
That was Good Faith Media's own Cliff Vaughn. If you want to see that photo of the chimney sweep, the little birdie that visited Kevin, the three amigas of Ginny, Maya, and Jessie, or the buck that appeared to Mitch, email Cliff at cliff@goodfaithmedia.org. He'll email you the photos and see if maybe you've got a story to tell. That's cliff@goodfaithmedia.org. You've been listening to Good Faith Stories from Good Faith Media. This episode's music comes from Pond 5. I'm Starlette Thomas. We at Good Faith Media know there's always more to tell, and everyone has a story. What's your story? We'd love to hear it and help you share it. Get in touch. Make sure you subscribe to Good Faith Stories to get our next episode as soon as it drops. And check out all of our podcast offerings and more at goodfaithmedia.org. And if you like what you heard, give us a good rating and tell your friends.